Diego, and you're tuned in to Breaking Down the Breakdown. On today's episode, we have a special guest who's here to talk about how his childhood traumas developed into depression. Hello, everyone. Okay, I know I kind of been taking a lot of breaks lately in between episodes, but a man has to do. I am so swamped with other stuff, but don't worry. I know how important this is to me, and that's why today I am bringing you somebody that I've known for a very long time, I would say. Somebody that, how can I explain this? So I worked with this man way back when we were wee little toddlers. Not really, but we were pretty fucking young.
I was a toddler at least.
You were a fucking toddler. Well, how old are you now?
I'm 30.
Oh, you're only 3 years younger than me. Okay, whatever, dude. Right? But honestly, probably one of the most fun people I've ever met, and also one of the nicest people I've ever met. All right, guys, we got Matt over here. What up, Matt?
What's up, guys?
What's going on? Introduce yourself. Who are you?
So as Steven said, I'm Matt. When we first met, we were, just working retail at Bench, but I kind of took that to the next level, got a lot of sales experience under my belt. Now I'm a realtor in Toronto, so I know a lot of fans of Steven's are overseas. But if you guys are looking for investment opportunities, you know who to call.
I'm fucking dead. Don't worry, guys. We will put the link in the bio. I mean, on the episode status and stuff like that. We're gonna have ways to contact Matt.
But I started my real estate career at the beginning of this year. It would have started mid-June last year, but obviously with the pandemic, everything kept getting pushed. I had the most unluckiest time of the year in terms of my career changes because my exams were all scheduled on the first day of every single lockdown. So the first one, it was like, okay, we're going to push it. And I'm like, oh shit. So when are things going to open up? We have no idea. And then we opened up and I was like, okay, great. Now I'm going to book my exam. And then it was like second lockdown. I was like to the date, like the exact date.
I am fucking mortified for you.
And then so I finally got my license at the beginning of this year. So I just like rushed out the gate. I was like, I'm out.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But at least you got it done.
Yeah, I got it done, and now I'm working finally.
Just the way you said that, not even dead. Now I see, like, it's kind of funny because I never thought in a million years I would have you on this show speaking about the issue you are going to be speaking about today, only because you have stayed largely the same from when I met you. And I felt like maybe that was there was kind of like a slight misjudgment on my part at that time because, we were young, and this goes for a lot of us right now who are still, in our early 20s, who are still teens. And even way past that point, I think at some point we all realized that, growing up, we never really actually took the time to figure out if our friends were okay and if they were dealing with stuff. And not even just like, hey, you okay? Like, hey, is everything good? Right. But the fact that we actually never get the time to sit down, look at each other and be like, is there something going on inside you that you can't explain? So I never in a million years thought you would be here because I thought you were always just, like super fun, got my shit together. I'm a go-getter and I don't got no problem. So I just want to say thank you for coming on here, first of all, and for agreeing to be open about these things.
I think that's a red flag in itself. I feel like anyone I meet nowadays, because we're so much older and we know the feeling of the topics that we're talking about, whether it's depression, but just mental health in general. As more and more people get open to talking about it, if someone is, I'm not saying that every single person who's like super giddy and happy or whatever is going through something, but usually like Robin Williams like worded it perfectly, where every single person that you meet in this entire world is battling their own battles, and we just don't know what they're going through. So that's why we should be kind to everyone. And that's exactly it. It's because even during that time when you knew me, I didn't even know I was depressed.
Right.
I just knew I was going through a bunch of shit. But luckily, growing up, I had a lot of friends, a lot of actually lady friends, because I found it was a lot easier to talk through my emotions with them. Because back when we grew up in like the 90s, it was literally, if you talk about your emotions, you're a wimp, you're a coward, you know. And I was
Yeah.
just like, that's stupid. But I was lucky in the fact that I was able to have this kind of support system. But in the end, when it got really, really bad, it really is up to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you guys know, but we're going to be talking about depression today.
Ah, yay! We love the
We
topic.
love the topic because I feel like I created a video, which actually is the reason why Steven reached out to me. Is because I've always been open about my own mental health to a lot of my friends, a lot of my family. And it's something I keep seeing, you know, like Bell, Let's Talk and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I've been talking about it for years, just not publicly like this. But I feel like doing videos like this is very important. So I have to thank you, Steven, for creating this series, just because a lot of people all across the world are experiencing it. But as I mentioned in my own video, it's almost like a spectrum. Like there's a degree that varies, and you can be all over the place you can be in two places at once on that same spectrum. And you just have to kind of think through like the things that you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and kind of, find your way to deal with them. Right.
I love it. I fucking love it.
But yeah, no. So like depression for me is completely a spectrum. I know one of the things that you wanted me to kind of explain is how I believe it all started.
Yeah, because for me, like I have had other people on the show speak about their own depression. And for a lot of people who are listening right now on podcast, or if you can watch us online, I know you guys are probably wondering, you're sitting there thinking, how come he has different guests for the same issues? And, I feel like if you guys don't actually listen individually to each and every single episode, then you will never understand why. But the reason why I'm not afraid to talk about the same things over and over and over again with different people is that everybody goes through the same issues differently. And funny enough, as different as it may be from other people, it's almost like groupings, right? There's like a column A, B, C, D, and E type of depression, kind of like what you said with the spectrum, right? And for me, the importance is to be able to cover every single type and every single way that it affects an individual so that somebody who is out there can relate to at least one of them. Because, one person might listen to an episode of depression, and the person dealing with it says, fitness for me is the biggest thing on how I battled it. But they're not really into fitness. That's not going to work. And it's just going to make them feel even worse, because they're going to start to feel like, well, if fitness really is the answer, I can't do that. Right.
That's the thing, is that just like the spectrum where you could be in group A, B, C, D of depression or mental health, the things that help certain people are also in groupings. There are so many different things that you can do. You could try and see what works with you and stick with those, right?
Yes.
100%. I feel like we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on, but I feel like in terms of telling my story of how this kind of relates to everyone else, I 100% agree. The reason and the importance that you're talking to so many different people who suffer from the same thing is because we all have different stories. We all have different backgrounds. And I guess I'm not sure if you had any guests who kind of like thought about it and told you the story and was like, you know what, maybe that's why it is.
Yeah, sometimes we have eureka moments here, right there and there, right?
That's good. So like I said, I can't express the gratitude towards you for inviting me on the show. But I've talked about this quite some time, but pretty much going all the way back to, I think my happiest moments that I remember in my life was elementary school up until grade 4, specifically grade 4. So that would be when I was 9 years old. I got bullied for the very first time. What happened was my best friend and another guy that I assumed was my best friend at the time. I had a trip to visit my grandfather in Australia. So I was gone for like a month or something like that.
Right.
Obviously for me as a kid, I didn't know the weight of going to Australia, because now if I want to go to Australia, it's $3,000 a ticket. And
Yeah. Like, yikes.
yeah, not gonna happen. So got to visit my grandpa soon. But pretty much for me, that trip was just all about just the wildlife. I've always had this thing for learning about the nature and everything like that. So before real estate, I was actually in environmental sciences. But as you guys know who live in Canada, we're not doing shit. So
Nope.
if I wanted to do that, I would have to pursue like Denmark or Germany or anything. But pretty much what happened, because I was gone for so long, for some reason, for a 9-year-old who is supposedly your best friends, when I got back, I remember the scene like vividly too. Because this bullying it's not the depression, it's what's tied and related to it. Yes. What happened was I went to the playground to meet up. I was happy, excited to be home, to see my friends. They were on the tire swings. You know, back then they had tires and like 4 like metal chains and you push them around and shit. Okay, so
I'm sure they still have that, man. We're not that old.
I went back to the same playground. They don't have it anymore. They took it out. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But anyways, so basically what happened was they were on the tire swing and I wanted to join them. And I said, hey guys, I'm back, whatever. And they kind of like cold shouldered me. I was like, why are you giving me the cold shoulder? I was like, what's going on? It's like, and I remember this because this is literally so traumatizing that 30 years later, 22 years later, whatever, it's still with me, is that she said, we're so used to playing without you. You can go play with your other friends. I was like, bruh, you're my friends. So that was the beginning of basically that. And the other supposedly best friend, he was like, yeah, we don't need to play with you anymore or whatever, because we played without you. And he took it to the next level. What he was doing is that he started shit talking about me to others. So when I tried to join other groups, they wouldn't play with me either. So then being that kid who had to wander from group to group, don't know where you want to sit during lunch and stuff like that, like that really fucked me. Because as you can see, I'm fairly open, I'm fairly extroverted and social, but being regress to a state where you can't socialize and you can't learn to, grow and things like that, it was kind of tough. So from grade 4 all the way to, I believe, grade 6 was the end of that school. And I moved on to a different school that was only grades 7 to 8. And a few of the students from the elementary school also went there, but I wasn't really close to them. But I was also bullied from grade 7 to 8. I think it was because I'm short.
Aren't you taller than me?
No, I'm like 5'7".
Yeah, you're taller than me. I'm 5'6", bro.
Oh, are you? Oh, shit.
Okay, so I feel that. Okay, go on.
So basically for me, I was like, okay, maybe new start. Let's get it going, whatever. The first maybe few months was pretty good. And then I think during that time when you're growing up, you're kind of like experimenting with things like love, relationships, who you are, your preferences, things like that. So for me, I was kind of bouncing around from girl to girl, to be honest, just trying to see, who's my type, what's their whatever. So in my mindset back then, it was like, oh yeah, I have all these girlfriends and whatever. But when you end a relationship with a certain individual, there's repercussions, because if you hung out with them for like months on end, you're also hanging out with their friends. And then if you break up with that girl and you're not close to those friends, then you're also breaking up with those friends all of them, too. So that technically I ended up shunning myself. But there was just a group of guys who just kept picking on everyone. They were like the alphas of the school or whatever. And same thing. I just couldn't really find a group that I could play with. A lot of people just trash talking for no reason. And to this day, like I remember standing up to certain ones and being like, yo, you're used to my friend. Why are you like listening to what they're saying when you know who I am? And they're just like, oh, I don't know. Because they're afraid. They don't want to be shunned or pushed out of the group either. So I realize that now after looking back at it, but back then I was obviously super angry because I'm like, of course. You don't know what was going on. You can't even give me a reason as to why you're not my friend. Why
vilifying you for nothing.
Yeah, for nothing, right? So basically it was the same situation in the school as well. And it got dark. Like I think grade 7 to 8 was when my very first period of wanting to commit suicide. It was so bad. Like I kind of understand, and I obviously don't condone, but like all of those kids who shoot up schools in the US, because all of this could be stopped. All of this could be prevented if mental health was something that we could talk to every day with our kids. Right. And back then, I know exactly why. Like, because if I would have been one of the 100%, I only say this because it was so messed up in my head during that time. It was in such a dark place that my dad took me out of kung fu lessons because he felt something was different, was off, and that I would be willing to start fights. And basically any physical activities to make me more aggressive or something like that, like video games or like whatever. And what it really was is that there was a lack of support. There was no one I could turn to, no groups of friends I could eat with, sit with, play with. And when I got home, growing up in an Oriental family, they're very strict on, doing the best that you can in school and things like that. I remember, I know we're jumping up ahead, but there's something that kind of is tied in with this. During this darkest period of my life where I'm contemplating either committing suicide or, murder, suicide type of shit, because I'm like, fuck these kids, fuck myself, fuck whatever. My parents didn't even know, or at least my dad had a hint because I told him I was getting bullied. Yeah. And the two things that my parents said to me, like, stuck with me, because I know for a fact, if I ever had a kid, I would never say what they said, even though what my dad said kind of makes sense. So I'll start off with my dad. Basically, I told my dad I was getting bullied. He said, ignore them. You're seeing them every single day for 2 years. Yeah, it's kind of hard to do that. And even if you try to walk around the long way, around the whatever, like they're going to find you because they like to bully you. They want to feel that power and shit like that. So one, he said, ignore them. Two, he said, oh, I got bullied too, and I'm fine. You just got to like move on and you'll never see them again. And like 100%, I have not seen those guys since. And it's not that carries with me. It's what they've done to me that carries with me. Yes. So that was one where it's like, oh yeah, I've been bullied. Everyone's been bullied, whatever. So it's like treating it like that. And then maybe when I'm 20 something, I remember when I started being a lot more open about my mindset, I told my mom, I was just like, yeah, did you guys not realize that I was really suicidal, really depressed or something during this time? She's like, you were suicidal? Really? I was like, mom, is like, I don't know, maybe I'm 24 or something. I was like, yeah, mom, 24. How did you not know this? Like, I was like pretty open about it. So knowing that, like, I understand why. Because my mom is a very, very, very hard worker. Like they came here as immigrants and they made it. All right. And that's just purely out of hard work and everything. So she was a workaholic, and obviously she has to provide for her family, but she wanted more for her family. So her solution to caring for us was just throwing money at us. But obviously we needed attention. Of course. But going back, it was basically, that was the very first time where I just wanted to either commit harm or to myself or others. And it was, I just couldn't. I picked fights with every single person. And even now I feel like if I'm getting aggressive with someone that, I don't know, was an anti-vax, anti-masker or something like that, I feel like the reasoning is because I don't like to take it standing anymore. Like I just don't feel like I want to just stand there and do nothing, because no one really stood up to me. When I see a kid who stands up to a bully, like that's like the top of the top, the best thing that could ever happen to that one kid, because of that one individual decided to stand up. But I've never had that person for me.
For you. Yeah.
But after that, instead of going to the area schools, because you know how TDSB has specific areas. If you live in this area, you're going to ACI, Campbell, Seneca, whatever it might be. So my parents were like, okay, he's clearly depressed. but we're going to send him to a different school completely. That was actually a smart move on their part. Because high school was by far one of the best years of my entire life.
That's amazing to hear.
But grade 9, there was a group of guys who actually bullied everyone. Luckily, I'm poor, so I had no money for them to steal, and my lunches were boring as shit. So yeah, absolutely take my lunch if you want it.
Sure, go ahead.
But they got screwed. They got instant karma. They got into a fight or something. They all got like expelled, and then like maybe 1 or 2 of the group stayed by, and then we never heard from them because they were by themselves now. So there's no one that they can hide behind. But after that, I would say grade 10 to 12 was like some of the best years of my life. But yeah, I met a girl in grade 11, and we had a pretty long relationship. So that was the first time you remember. With her, she was the very first person I had a very long relationship with, because this is after being with so many girls and trying to figure out what's my personality type, what's the personality type that I like, the similar interests and common interests and things like that. But pretty much after I started university, I started to get a little bit more specific with who I wanted to be, what I valued in the individual and things like that. So breaking up with her and like having that relationship end in the very first year of university, first and second year, was really difficult because 2 years is a long time. Like obviously, if I've been with Tui for like 9 years, 10 years, 9 years, whatever. So if we broke up now, I'd be done.
You'd be devastated.
I'd be done.
It's something like that's an investment right there, you know?
But so the second time that I wanted to feel suicidal, or not wanted to feel, I was suicidal, was after the breaking up with. I spent so much of my energy, my time and everything, and let her meet all my friends. So kind of like a similar situation happened where instead of me losing her friends, it was me losing my friends, because my friends were all friends with her. But there were a lot of things like, for example, she would purposely sabotage any relationships I was trying to get into, to try to kind of cope and find someone to lean on type of thing. But it would develop into something a little bit more romantic. And then what I've heard from them, and why I no longer talk to them, is that she apparently sent them messages to be like, oh yeah, we're freshly broken up and please don't do this to me. It's no offense to you and whatever. And then they would all ghost me.
Hold on, but are these people friends of hers?
Or it's either friends of hers or it's within the same group. Because think of the universities kind of like Hogwarts, where they have houses. So we were part of the same house, right? So we. But
Maddie, I must say, let me just interject for a second. You're trying to date her friends?
No. It's not her friends.
That's why I was like,
no.
Of course, her friends will listen to her.
No.
So just people that like she
that we're aware of.
They're in there.
Yeah, we're in the same house or whatever.
Wild. Ooh, that's wild.
But get this: the same time that she was sabotaging me, she was hooking up with another guy who's now her husband and baby daddy.
Okay, well, I will say this, right? I will say this. At least for her, she was hooking up with somebody that she ended up actually being in love with. Okay,
exactly.
So, congratulations to her.
But for me, at that point, so the reason I'm giving this information, obviously now I don't care. I'm happy for them. We're talking and everything. Yes. Yeah, but during that time, seeing this unfold and then seeing that stuff, because you're in such a dark mindset, right. Like that's the only reason I wanted to provide this detail. Because obviously, from a third person view, you're like, whatever, happy, good for them.
No, it's not whatever. I had to say it like that because I just didn't want people to think that we're just here tearing other people down.
Oh, no.
It's one of those things where trust us. there is something to this story. Okay, yes. So then what happened?
You need to understand those pieces to figure out why. So pretty much during this time, it was like, okay, so she. In my mind, it's like she doesn't want me to be happy, but she's allowed to be happy. Maybe I don't deserve to be happy, and then it's the downward spiral from there, right? So from there, it was just like really, yeah. So that was the second time I wanted to commit suicide. I was trying to find anyone to lean on, trying to talk to anyone about just like what's going on. Like it was, I think the relationship ending was a catalyst for sure, but like just being like am I even worth it? Like, what the hell is the point of this? This is the second time I feel like this. And then also, parents not being there for you and things like that. So, yeah. How did I get out of it? That is the question. Now
But
I'm just
hold
like thinking, I'm
on.
just like, hold on a
Hold
second.
on though. Okay.
Yeah,
I do just want to, because I feel like, getting out of these things, it is, we're
it's
going to
tough.
delve into a different territory. And I do want to hear this, but I just kind of want to backtrack a little bit to what we said earlier about you growing up as a bullied child and you relating it to school shootings and stuff like that, right? Um, it is so important. And I'm actually so glad that you brought up that point because not a lot of people will openly admit to have felt that way because they were bullied. There are a lot of people who they come up and they say, well, I used to be bullied, but not once did I ever feel like I wanted to go shoot up a school. And it's not even like the severity of the bullying, right? And that's what people need to understand. It's the state of mind of the child that's being bullied. It's an individual case. You can't sit there and say that person shooting up that school is fucked up because when I for this reason that he said it, I didn't want to do that. And it's like, but this is why it's important for everybody to understand that mental health is so, you know,
That's
it's
why they're fucked up. How did they
exactly
get fucked up?
there needs to be a program in place for not just for kids but for parents to learn how to deal with kids who are being bullied, right? It's like what you said with how your parents handled it. You know it's a generational thing. I realize that. I'm speaking to my mom, and now that I'm in therapy, I'm starting to realize how much she needs therapy. And I told her this the other day. I told her this the other day. I'm like, you need therapy. She goes, no, I don't. I'm like, yeah, you do. I'm like, when we have more money, you'll get one. Because they have so many things that have happened to them in their childhood that they're never, and they probably will never be able to deal with unless they see a therapist, right? And that reflects on how they raised you,
Yeah. Because like
right?
even if they just okay, so going back to that point about school specifically, like
Yeah.
100%, if I had even just my dad step in, talk to the principal, be like, these individuals are literally wrecking havoc, maybe not on just my son, but could be others
Yes.
that they could be peer pressuring, they could be bullying, they could be just taking their lunch money, whatever it might be. Because I know that if I was that father, if I was my own father, essentially, I would be 100% making a scene at parent teacher nights, at the
Yes.
principal, bringing it up on social media. But obviously, back then, social media wasn't even a thing.
No.
Like, but just that support system to know that the people that supposedly love you actually have your back and that they can do something or try something. Just
Right.
that, try something, right? I think 100% that would have definitely at least not get me out of it, but help me through it.
Right.
Right. That stage, that depression, those thoughts, those dark like thoughts that obviously I didn't act through them, but because
No,
I
for
knew it was
sure.
wrong. But it was like, you can't, it's natural for people to feel that way. When I was seeing my therapist too, I told her the same story. She's like, yeah, it's natural for you to even want to inflict harm on others because you're hurt yourself. But like with a moral compass, clearly I'm not a psychopath. I have a moral compass. You stop yourself.
Right.
But that's the thing, is why do I even need to get to the point where I need to battle
Feel that
myself
way.
and feel
Yeah.
that way, right? If we had the right support systems in place
Exactly.
early on, 100%.
Thank you. Honestly, like that, like so many people need to hear that because a lot of people spend their time trying to figure out where did I go wrong? When did I become so depressed? And they always pinpoint like a breakup, or they pinpoint this, they pinpoint that, but then rarely do they ever look back in their childhood and realize these things are actually happening within our formative years. And it's whatever event happens outside the home or even within inside the home, but it's also in how the people, and I say people because, most of us sometimes we don't live with our parents, but how the people raising us end up dealing with that, right? So with your case, it's cut and dry. Like this is a parental issue because they weren't able to do anything for you when you needed them the most.
And they didn't really take the subtle hints
Right. Right. But at
to,
the same
but it's
time,
difficult though too. Like you said,
exactly. And
you
this is
gotta
where I was gonna say,
gotta
this is where like where for me,
gotta
it's like I
trade the
appreciate
parents.
that you're like this, right? Yeah. Because at least you know that they have been through something else and they don't necessarily know how to deal with that. Which brings us to the most important part of this talk. Not that that wasn't important, right? But how the fuck did
Like,
you
get
get
out
out
of
of
that.
that on your own?
Oh,
Because
okay.
that
So
is the thing.
I keep thinking to myself, oh, by far the first time was the worst. And then I'm thinking about, no shit, the second time was really, really bad too.
Mm-hmm.
They all suck.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Like, this depression is one side of the spectrum that I want to talk about because that is by far the hardest one. What I'm dealing with now, and I've been talking about freely, is just the functioning depression that
Right.
normal people usually have. That's a little bit simpler to deal with, but I want to talk about the other side, the extreme side of depression, where you have these super, super dark thoughts that literally take you over. And starting from the first one, from grade 7 to grade 8, I had no idea how the hell I made it out there alive, personally.
Right.
I think it was just, I remember a time actually holding a knife to my chest and I poked myself. I said, that fucking hurts. I don't want to do that shit. But just contemplating, be like, do I really want to do this? My parents aren't here for me. My dad said, stick it out. I'm not going to see them. Maybe is that true? Man, that sucks. To be honest, grade 7, grade 8, I'm not certain how I got out. All I know is that every day was a battle for, I don't know, 365 days times 2. Every single day was a battle. It was just trying to get through the day. Okay, the day's done. Go home, get yelled at by parents for not doing dishes. Okay, go to bed. Maybe going to sleep. What was kind of peace of mind, but to be honest, because you have all of this going on, that's all you're thinking about anyway. So it doesn't matter. I think that was, in my mind, the worst in that case scenario, because it was every second that you're awake was hell.
Right.
And for those of you who are much younger or same age that feel like you're going through the same thing, I personally feel that when people say, don't commit suicide because there's so many people that love you. If you commit suicide, it's selfish of you and everyone's going to miss you and whatever. I personally feel that's bullshit. The only reason I'm saying this is because that did not help my case. I don't care about what other people are thinking. I care about how I'm feeling because I am the one who's hurting. Obviously, that's a selfish mentality, but you need that in survival mode. Like, this is literally, you are trying to fight yourself while fighting others, while fighting your triggers, as well as everyone else outside of your bubble, because everything is attacking you, including yourself. The only thing I can think of for if you're that age suffering from that side of the spectrum is to continue to push through. Because literally, when I mentioned that my dad was technically correct with, 1, I will never see them again. Right. 2, everyone goes through it and then you'll get through it and then you'll be fine. Like, yes and no. I'm out, I'm fine, like, but I'm like missing a limb, I'm missing my arms, I'm a leg, like, I got out, I'm alive. But it's like, but at what cost, But that's literally for that 100%. You got to push through, because at that age, I didn't know about the activities that I'm doing now, right? When I'm like, what was that? Grade 7 is 12 years old, 13, like extracurriculars maybe, but even then you're like socializing with the people that you might not like as well. So then, or that don't like you or whatever it might be. So that's a little bit tough, but the only thing that I can think of is, if my parents did something, maybe if they took me to a different school and they knew it was that bad, that I could have a fresh start where no one knew me and just kind of rebuild friendships, relationships that way. If I was introverted, I have no idea how that would work. Right. Just bringing this out, because I know when I was a kid, I was very closed, but if someone got to this friendship level, right? We'll be very comfortable. But my shell never really broke open until university. So I'm not certain how to, I guess, help those who might be a little bit more closed off, who likes their personal space a little bit more if they're suffering on that end of the spectrum too.
I will say though, right, Matt, like I know it is not really up to us to try or figure out how we can help those people, right? I think what's important in everything that you've said so far is to paint a really huge, grotesque picture of what you just said, in which you probably lost a limb, you probably lost a leg. You have described, oh yeah, I'm alive, but at what cost? But what's important about what you just said, and probably the most poignant thing that anyone can ever take away from this, is it doesn't even matter how many things you've lost, because you are happy with where you are now, despite all of that thing that you've been through. And I hope for everybody who's listening and watching this right now, if you have the same feelings that Matt and myself once had, I hope you can see just how hard we're working to try and let you guys know that, to trust that it is worth it to get through. Because the worst thing you can ever do for yourself, and it's true what Matt said, I don't agree with it too. Like, oh, it's so selfish. Like, selfish for who? Like, I don't give a fuck if people cry if I die. No, fuck. But you should, right? Like, fuck that. I don't give a shit. Like, what are they gonna do? Like, my biggest thing is, am I really willing to give up the rest of my life just because people made me feel like this about myself?
Exactly. I think the only corny thing I will reiterate forever is there is literally a light at the end of the tunnel. When you fight for it.
Yes.
If you don't crawl your way out of it, obviously you're not going to get there.
You're stuck in that tunnel.
You're stuck in that tunnel of hell. That's tunnel of, oh, am I good enough? Why does everyone hate me? Why am I alone? Why don't I have friends? Why, like, all of those negative thoughts are coming from within. That's something I also didn't realize until talking about this and realizing what it was. But 100%, like, it's corny as fuck, but there literally is a light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't even notice it, to be honest, till this point. This is my eureka from you, Steven, saying that I'm happy with where I'm like, you know what? I've actually been through a lot of shit and I'm actually doing pretty fucking well.
Yeah, you are. You fucking kidding me? Excuse me.
But this is why we're talking about this, because I'm still in that mindset. Like, I'm in the functioning side of depression. And that's exactly why, it's because I don't even realize what I've actually accomplished until we're actually talking about it. But moving on to the second time where I felt suicidal, like, this is where I started to progress. This is where I started finding things to do. So when you mentioned that someone took fitness seriously, what I wanted to do was get ripped and jacked to the point where I was so fit that I was more fit than the guy that
I remember that fucking time.
Yes. So I worked out every single day. I went to my friends who were like more jacked than me and like, teach me this, teach me how to do that and whatever. So like, that gave me something to focus on other than my pain. That was one of the, by far, it was what, like, number one was fitness. Not fitness itself, just the activity of doing something, because it doesn't have to be weightlifting. It can just be anything. You can go swimming, you can go running, whatever it is. Something about that type of pain, that physical pain, when you're hurting inside or when you're angry, it helps you kind of focus that energy. And on top of that, you kind of have a goal. So on, like, it's layered where it's like, oh yeah, ow, my arms are hurting, but my heart isn't hurting because I'm not focusing on that. But then you also have a goal where you're just like, I want this. And then you kind of like start shifting your focus away from yourself to be like, oh, I'm so damn depressed, to maybe I want to do more reps. Maybe I can do more weights. Maybe I can do whatever. So with that one activity, it was a catalyst for other things as well. One person I want to shout out to is Natalie. She definitely, I quote her, or not quote her, I shout out to her specifically to being the person who got me out of that, because she literally said, fuck it, let's work out. She was the whole reason this entire thing started, because in the end, I was just basically back to square zero. And I was in the same dark place
Yeah.
Nights were the worst. Like nighttime, I could not sleep because all I could think about was how sad I was, how much I
Yeah.
miss Laura, or just that pain, and just be like, oh man, I'm a fuck up, or I'm shit. Oh, I treated her like this, and then I could have done this. That
Right.
Bruno Mars song,
Yeah.
I can achieve better.
Oh no. No, no.
But no, 100%. So for her to be like, oh, you know what, fuck it, let's work out. Let's do this, right?
Yeah.
Get me out of the house, get me to do something.
It
That was
pushed
one
you,
thing.
right?
It pushed me into doing something that I actually enjoy.
Mhm.
Obviously with COVID, I gained like 40 pounds, so I have to go back to it. But
Okay, whatever. COVID's like a different timeline, okay?
yeah. But no, like 100%. Like I think it's not the fitness itself, it's the activities, and that's something I want to touch upon now for what I'm doing now to combat my depression. Is the key is keeping your mind busy. When you keep your mind busy, you don't have time to think about how sad you are. You don't have time to think about like all the shit that's going on because you're too busy. But it's not just about being busy. It's about being busy building yourself up. That's the key for me, at least,
right,
for battling my depression. Is if I'm focusing on things that makes me better, that makes me talk better, that makes me more extroverted, or maybe makes me shut the fuck up so I can actually listen to someone while they're talking, which I still have issues with because I can't sit here and just listen. Anything. When I'm focusing on just trying to be better than myself, my past self, that gives me reason to do better, be better, and everything else that I just talked about, it's gone because I'm not even focusing on that. I'm focusing straight ahead, right?
I want to add to that, right? Like it is so important to kind of read in between the lines of what Matt just said, because a lot of people will end up doing what you're doing and not realize that what you're talking about is mindful development, in which you are investing in yourself and you're doing these activities that, yes, you know what it does? It makes you forget about all the bad stuff. And in turn, you're actually doing something good that you can reap the rewards later on, right? But people, it's a fine line. So guys, please be mindful when you're doing this, because you don't want to end up doing mindless distraction instead, in which you think you're going to end up doing all these things, keep yourself busy like all the motherfucking time so that you don't have time to think about the bad thoughts, only for you to realize that these things you're doing are very temporary.
Yeah.
That by the time this one ends and you don't have anything lined up, you are so burnt out and you are so tired from everything you're doing, and you had nothing to show for it. And that just gets added on to the intrusive thoughts that you normally have.
100%.
Right?
Oh
Exactly.
my
So
God.
the key that Matt said there is what he's doing for himself. It's he, at the end of the day, he is seeing results for himself that allows him to realize that he is growing, he's developing, and he's happy.
I think what we're touching upon is purpose.
There you go.
When I'm a heavy gamer. I know Steven plays a lot of video games too. That is my addiction. That is my distraction. But if I'm playing games all day, and exactly what you said is at the end of the day, if I'm playing all games all day and then it's like, I haven't done any marketing, I haven't done any calls.
Right.
Who's gonna ask me to sell their house?
That's a distraction.
If I'm playing League all day, it's not gonna happen. And that's a distraction, right? And obviously at the end of the day, I'm just like, shit, I didn't do anything. And I feel like crap. And then it's like, it's a never ending circle and you just continue on over and over again. But if I, for example, focus on, okay, I'm going to get X amount of marketing out. I'm going to call X amount of people. I'm going to drop off X amount of gifts to these clients. And at the end of the day, if I play video games for the rest of it, maybe I finish, let's hypothetically say I do all of this within the first few hours and I'm done at lunchtime. All of those things that I just
You're
said.
quick as hell.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm driving around Toronto, doing all that shit. I'm like, okay, good. I'm home. Okay. Let's make it a little bit more realistic. I come home at 2 p.m. Okay, let's
fine.
Just say because I had one
hour.
I had one day like this where literally I came home at 2 p.m. and I was drained But I delivered a shit ton of pies. I did a bunch
I saw
of
that.
yeah. You
Yeah, I
saw it. You
saw
saw it.
that.
You
I
saw
saw
it.
that.
Delivered a shit ton of pies. Talked to a bunch of people. Talked to a bunch of clients. Did a lot of my marketing. Whatever. I was done. I said, "Fuck it. I'm playing video games the rest of the day." So I played video games the rest of the day. Tui turns around. She's like, "Why are you still playing video games? Don't you have to go out?" And I'm like, "Babe, I already delivered the pie." She's like, "When did you leave?" But at the end of the day, I actually felt really, 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 really good because I did something rather than nothing. And on top of that, I did something that was going to help me grow. Right. So, yeah, no, I think what it ultimately comes down to, it's not about the mindless distractions. Obviously, they come into play when you want to just kind of just shut everything out, but you have to schedule some time for yourself. Like actually for yourself. Some things that I was playing around with over the past few years, the adult coloring books. Have you tried those before?
It's like you color in porno or some shit.
No. Adult coloring books, as
Sorry,
in it's like
you went like
you just went like, okay,
no, like damn.
No. So, okay, so what an adult coloring book is? It's literally an image of not porn, of something very intricate, but there's lots of coloring zones, right? And you just literally just take a bunch of
hella complicated coloring book.
Could be hella. It could be okay, hella. So a children's book is like a picture of Minnie Mouse, and there's like maybe 15 color regions. But for the adult one, it's like 60 or something like that. So you can literally. So the reason I'm going with this is because I was like, this is stupid. Why is everyone talking about this? Because this was getting hyped for months on end, like I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. It's been ages, but I was like, fuck it, let's try it. So I asked Tui to buy a few, and I had like video game related. I had Assassin's Creed book.
Oh, I love
like
that.
Mass Effect. And I start. You know what? Do we have time if I were to bother her to try?
Go get it.
I want to
go ahead. While you go, I'm gonna go talk to. All right. So while Matt is off on his journey to try and find this adult coloring, I would like to apologize to all y'all for thinking that adult coloring books meant adult coloring books. Sorry if those of you that are listening to the podcast that are watching, I just winked. You already know what that means. But I do have to say, this is exactly why I wanted Matt on this show. I did not know he was going to say the things that he was going to say. He has always been so random, and I love it. I love that about him. But the most important thing is that it paints a picture of how different it could be. His episode of depression is different from mine. His episode of depression was different from Emily's, and again, this is a journey that unfortunately we are all on. And unfortunately for some of us, we are on different wavelengths for this one. But I hope that hearing him talk about this allows you guys to understand that, holy shit, we are all doing this together. We're not so much, oh my God, you're already back. Sorry, I was not looking on my screen and he just came back. He didn't even say anything. You were like, hey, I'm back.
No, you're not. No, but you're 100% correct. Like, we just got to understand that. I feel like for a large part of this community, when I'm talking to other people, same way as you, we kind of suffer through similar episodes, not the same, but similar.
Yes.
Like, I've had ones where like it got bad for them. Like some of them in their family, like they had like sexual harassment things going on. I'm like, holy fuck, like I can't imagine that trauma carrying over. But it's still depression. It's just different sort. And I'm just like, holy crap. But in the end, how we support each other is, like you mentioned, it's completely important to know that there are others out there that, even though my story might not be the same, I'm telling you now, I've had really, really dark moments, but the things that we do to kind of get out of it could possibly be something that you can try out to try to crawl your way out, maybe giving you some different tools to get out of that tunnel yourself and get out. I didn't expect to be this quick, by the way, but I'm just really glad to know how I've organized her junk in my room. So
look at that.
I walked in, I was just her. I was like, Tui's a hoarder. If I was Tui, where would I put my shit with coloring? It would be in that box. And I opened it up and there it was.
This is relationship telepathy when you know your partner too well.
So this is the Assassin's Creed one.
Okay, that looks cool.
That's what I did.
Oh my goodness. Wait, what? You colored that?
Yeah.
You're lying to me.
Yeah, I
Now,
colored
all of
this.
you podcasters who can't see the visual that Matt is putting up right now, it's literally Etsy Auditory, and he colored it the way he wanted to color it, and it looks amazing. The details are there. It looked like somebody else had colored it and not Matt.
But this is okay. So this is what I'm talking about of the intricacy. This is why it's an hour color. Like, do you know
Holy
how many fucking
Murphy.
things you gotta
Okay.
color?
What is that?
Like these are the things that you have to
What?
color in yourself.
Sir,
I think I
that
did
is
another
gonna
one.
make me more depressed. Put that shit
Oh shit!
away.
Listen, this thing. So I started on this one. I think I put it away and I never touched it again.
That's beautiful. But hey, that's really
I was
nice.
just playing around. I was just like, okay, what other things can I use? But
So
like,
these are the one of the
start
tools that has helped you along the way.
100%. Like it's not even. It didn't get me out of anything. What it actually did, it was a form of meditation, and
Okay,
that's something I
there it
wanted to
is.
bring up. Where
Yes.
how I became this mindful of how I'm feeling, but also what's triggering me
Right.
was doing things like this and then just having that time to yourself, that time to think to yourself, talk to yourself, whatever it might be. But I didn't realize until after. I'm like, I feel a little bit better. I feel a little bit more calm, or I feel a little bit more tranquil. It's like, why? It's because I shut out everything and I was just focusing on one thing. And that was the coloring book. And yeah, okay, ooh, I can show it off. Be like, ooh, look how pretty it is. But what it really did is just allows me to focus on how I was feeling at that time. Obviously,
Right.
like I said, I haven't touched these in like 5 years. I kind of want to go back to them.
Hey, at least you have them at your disposal.
But yeah, no, like after that, I think what I remember specifically from these, besides having that kind of like inner peace, which is very rare when you're kind of battling yourself,
Right.
I became a lot more open to talking about this with more than just the people closest to me.
I love
So
that.
that when people are talking, now I'm at the point where I don't give a fuck if it's a stigma and you're like, why is he talking about mental? I'm like, you're gonna hear my story. Obviously, it's not gonna be as in-depth and deep like this, but I want it to be as I think one of the managers of a firm I used to work with said it the best. It's like he was wearing like a brace, and he's like, the fact that so many people in the office asked me if I was okay, how's my arm, what's the brace for, like nonchalantly, and I didn't take offense to that. Why can't they say, why are you depressed? Why are you angry? Why are you whatever your mental health is? And that's why I kind of don't care about what people think about not talking about mental health, why I'm so open, why I will tell you, even if it'll make you uncomfortable, because it should not make you uncomfortable. It should be something normal to talk about. So for those individuals, I half apologize, but not at the same time. But if I made you feel uncomfortable because I was talking about my mental health, maybe it's time for you to talk about your mental health.
Well, now hold on. Let me just kind of skirt back, reverse this motherfucking car, because I don't think you. I mean, did you go out on the street, pull somebody aside, and says, listen to my mental health story? I highly doubt you did that. Exactly.
No.
So I don't, you know what, Matt, I will say this. I don't want you to ever feel sorry for talking about your problems, for talking about your issues, and for wanting to raise awareness. People will listen if they want to listen. If people don't want to listen, they don't got to, right? So therefore, no apologies needed, because you should not be sorry for living life the way that you want to for yourself, knowing that it's going to make you and other people better.
I think the reason why I kind of like, blah, this is my mental health story, is because it kind of opens up a little bit to be like, okay, if he shared it with me, maybe if I'm comfortable with talking with Matt, maybe I'll open up a little bit, and then that will open a gateway for them to be more comfortable to talk with other people. And that's kind of the reason why I'm just like, here you go.
But exactly, right? And that's why, right? So anybody who will find fault in that,
to be honest, like just the fact that me opening up on my social media platforms, and then you reaching out to me and you didn't even know I was going through any of this, that's the reason why I started doing these things, these videos of I suffer through this. I'm sure there are others who suffer through this, but we can get out of it together.
Of course.
But I feel, I don't know about you, but do you feel like you could ever not be depressed?
Okay. Now, it's a little complicated for me because I know we haven't spoken in a while, but I know I've sort of talked to you about what happened to me. In terms of my OCD, it's very different, right? It's I'm starting to come to realize that my depressive states, it wasn't really the kind of depression that you have gone through or other people have gone through, right? It was more so there was just something that I needed to get out my chest. It was just um, something that everybody does go through, because yes, you can go through bouts of depression, but you don't have to be depressed, right? So for me, staying mindful, I am confident enough in saying that I definitely have the ability to catch it before it even gets worse. And that is the important thing about, this whole mindfulness thing and really understanding yourself and getting to know yourself. Because when you are able to be in touch with your own emotions, when you're able to get yourself in check, when you're able to gauge how another person's response towards things that you are having or they're having, it's being aware of everything. You can actually allow yourself to say, I am sad, I will allow these emotions right now, but I don't need to go back to that deep end that I used to be at. So yeah, you know what, it is actually entirely possible. I believe that, but it took me going to hell for that to happen. So it's really difficult for people to be in the space that I am in now mentally.
So do you feel that it's not the fact that you're completely out of the deep end? It's
I
not
don't think
completely like
I don't think anybody will ever be completely out of the woods.
That's what I want to get to.
Yeah.
So depression is something that people who don't feel like they have it, the stigma towards it, that whenever I'm talking to individuals who are like, oh, I've never been depressed ever. The misconception is that, oh, you're sad, stop being sad.
Right.
It's no. Depression is an ongoing battle that I personally feel, and based off of other people's stories, you will never get out of completely. No. But like Steven mentioned before, it's finding that inner voice, figuring out what triggers you and how to manage your emotions in that sense, to know what you're going through, know that, oh, okay, I'm having one of those days. I will allow myself to have one of those days. But like you said, I'm not going to allow myself to go in the deep end, because what's the point? Yes. I can keep crawling out. And then that's basically the reason why I wanted to ask you that question, is because I want to also get that confirmation that another individual knows that it's not once I'm out of depression, I'm done forever. This is an ongoing battle. It comes back. We don't even know why.
The same can be said for every single mental health disorder. Unfortunately, and a lot of people, my therapist was brave enough to tell me this, because I did ask him for a few sessions. I asked him, okay, when am I going to get better? When is this going to stop? And he kept saying, within 6 months, within 6 months to a year. We get to the 6-month mark, I was still the same way. And then he sat down, he told me, this is a chronic thing for you. You actually have had this your entire life, and you will have this for the rest of your life. And how you take that is entirely up to you. How you deal with it will be entirely up to you. But you have the resources, you have this and that. And at that point, majority of us tend to zone out. Once we hear the worst thing we could ever hear, in which we are stuck with this forever and nothing else matters. And that is something that we need to stop, because by doing that, we are shutting ourselves off from what will actually help us, right? And so for me, it's like what you said, right? I will never feel that way again. Yes, I may have my moments where I'm like, oh crap, there it is. And that is what happens with my intrusive thoughts now, right? Like with my OCD. But what I had done is I had built a really nice log cabin in the woods. So, I know I'll never get out. I might as well be fucking comfortable here and design it the way I want to and invite people to come in out when they want to. And I feel like, that's what I want people to start looking at their mental illness as something that is as abstract, as empty as an empty lot that you want to build a condo in.
I fucking love that though. To be honest, like What's depression like? Like an empty, dark, dank, spiderweb infested log cabin that you can't get out of. So it's like, what do? You do different things to like literally spruce things up.
Exactly.
Like this little guy.
Oh my God. Little doggy making an appearance. I really wish you guys could see this right now.
So he is one of the things that I would say 100% in my log cabin of depression. He 100%. Yeah.
He's like, yep, that's me. Okay. That's me.
He 100% is one of the things to help me with just my episodes, I guess. Just because when you say, oh yeah, I want to spruce it up the way I want it to be, that's exactly what these activities are. The things, to be honest, after starting my career in real estate, I only started to do more of these things that help, I guess, motivate me or I guess get me out of that kind of thought. Yeah. But then it also made me more mindful as to what my triggers were. Because there were days where I just wake up, you know, we have those days where we just wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
Oh yeah.
And like those days that I mentioned where I would play video games all day, sometimes I just let myself play video games all day and say, fuck it, I'm writing that day off. It's just a mental health day. As long as I don't continue to do that the next day, that's what's going to make me know that something's going on. Right. Obviously, I've had days where it's like maybe 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And then at the end of the 3 days, I feel like absolute garbage because I haven't done anything productive for myself, for my business. So I'm just like, no, I'm not letting this happen. And then I'll start, you know, picking it up again and I'll start working again, whatever it might be. But the reason why Milo, my dog, is one of those things is because if I, just me picking him up, kissing him, hugging him, that gave me a burst of dopamine. I'm ready to go again. Right. Obviously with Tui's the same thing. Whenever she says something, words of encouragement, or maybe she does, like, I don't know, cooks a meal for me. And then I go into the kitchen and be like, oh shit, there's food already done. Like just little things like that, I realize are things that kind of help me with that journey, just because the little things do matter. And it's not just, oh yeah, I'm going to work out. Oh, I'm going to buy a dog or something like that. It's what are the things that make me happy? What are the things that kind of trigger me? Right. What triggers you? What triggers your episodes?
Well, you know, unfortunately for me, and I know this is kind of like out of depression now, but I will say this quickly. But
is it though? Because everyone has triggers that could help. That would push them
you know
into
what?
The deep
if
end.
We want to talk about something that actually puts me onto that whole road of fuck, I feel useless and all of that stuff. I would have to say it's about, man, I don't. I'm just kind of like, you know, there is quite a list. Yesterday was a very difficult day for me. Sorry, I might change that. It's a very challenging day for me.
Okay.
But you know, I win every challenge, so whatever, fuck it. But the biggest thing for me is the fact that I'm not comparing myself to other people. I know a lot of people are like that. People do compare themselves, but I'm comparing myself to where I thought I would have been at this point in my life. And honestly, guys, don't compare yourselves to anyone, not even to yourself. You can compare yourself in terms of how better you are now than you were before, but don't do it. Don't ever compare yourself to a future that has not happened, because that's all a fantasy or a nightmare or an anxiety. Things that are of the unknown are not things that you should be comparing your present to. And, you know, I still catch myself in that sometimes. And that's actually what triggers my depression, because I ended up crying and saying to myself, oh my God, I really do sell racy photos just to put food on the table. And instead of being able to look at that as, hey, I am doing something for myself, there was shame that got attached to it by saying it that way. And that is a big no-no for me. And that's why I say it was a challenge, because I had to literally stop crying and be like, what's wrong with that again?
I'm making bank.
Well, I mean, just that, right? But it's kind of like, you know, like it was whatever was attached to it was how people felt about it. And that's already, it's like, why do I care what they think? They're not
Yeah.
my buyers. They're
Yeah.
not putting food on my table.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, so those are my trigger points, really.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you, because I feel like for me, after starting this career, I'm kind of on a seesaw of that. I am learning to not compare myself with, like, I actually watched a video the other day, Simon Sinek, whatever, how you pronounce his last name.
Well, shout him out. Simon, you can't
Yes,
pronounce
Simon
your last name.
Sinek. Simon
Sir,
Sinek.
sir.
No, he was talking about how comparing yourselves with others is just the worst thing that you can do to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another individual who just basically said, I think it was like Steven Furak or something. He basically said, you are comparing your behind the scenes to someone's highlight reels.
Right. I saw that somebody posted that the other day too.
I posted it. That's
was it
what
you?
it is. Yeah,
Okay,
probably
that's
me,
what it
bro.
was. All right,
That's
it.
It's so funny that you brought that up, because that's exactly what we do in every single aspect of our lives. And I realized that, and that's the only reason I would kind of challenge you on saying, don't compare yourself with the past self.
Right.
It might, and that's why I say it's kind of like a seesaw. Like, you have to have the right mindset to look at yourself in that way, where
yes,
for me, I could say, oh man, I didn't do any work for the past day. And then that could lead to, oh, I'm continuing to not do any work, and then spiral downwards. Or
right.
I use that as motivation, be like, oh, I didn't do anything today, but today I did this. I'm so much better than myself last. Right. And then you just continue. It exactly. Really depends on how you take it. But I think that that's better than me being like, oh, I compare myself to Ryan Serhant, the guy who has like 2 TV shows and selling $1 million homes. Like, there's no point in doing that, because I'm not comparing myself to something that's really realistic, right?
No.
But yeah, no. So talking about the triggers, the reason I asked is because I'm still trying to figure out what triggers me right now in terms of my depression episodes. A lot of the times, actually, I just feel like I don't want to do anything. I feel unmotivated. I feel like I don't want to do the things that needs to be done. Or I had an entire week where I think I just watched Linkin Park live on YouTube, and that triggered an entire episode for an entire week where I was just very, very upset, like to the point of tears, because Chester Bennington is dead and he committed suicide, and all his music's all towards helping to fight and depression, but also helping people to get out of it. And it was so bad that even Tui was like, okay, you can listen to Linkin Park songs, but only when I'm next to you, and you're not allowed watching videos.
Okay.
And
I do have to interject. I do have to ask, like, have you ever seen an actual psychotherapist before?
A psychotherapist? I don't believe so. I've seen a therapist.
Well, I mean, I feel like they're the same thing, not the ones that try to medicate you. Okay. No, there is no knack on people who are on medication. I think medication is amazing. I always say, for things with mental illnesses, medication and therapy combined will actually really get you to where you need to be, where you feel comfortable to not be taking meds anymore. Or if you want to keep taking meds your entire life because it really changes you for the better, go ahead and do it, right? I'm only saying this because your trajectory with your depression and your triggers, right? It kind of parallels the way I get triggered with my OCD. And it's completely different, right? Like for you, it's the whole, like depressive kind of like this person is dead and I'm going to listen to it over and over again. And then you start thinking about all the great things they've done, but they're gone. All the great things.
Or I haven't even seen their concert and I was supposed
to. But then they're gone, right? It's just things like that. Whereas for me, a trigger for me, because it's not a secret in this podcast, everybody who's listened to this knows that I do not have violent tendencies, but I do have violent intrusive thoughts, in which for the longest time I couldn't watch any shows or movies with the word kill, blood, any weapons or anything, any songs that had the word like murder or anything violent at all, because then I would go down this rabbit hole of, why is that word stuck in my head? Why do I keep thinking about that? And then the next person that I think of in my head after that, oh my God, is it because I want to kill them? Oh my God, I don't want to harm anyone. And then I go into a panic attack. And this happens every 10 minutes. So for every 10 minutes for 8 months, this was happening to me last year. And going to therapy really allowed me to understand that I have, well, I can have access to the tools, and so can you. And that's why I'm saying this, because we do have access to tools that allow us to break that cycle. That no matter how deep we are in it, all we have to do is remind ourselves that, oh, this is that cycle that I've been talking about. Let me just do these exercises for it, and it will persist for maybe a few hours, but then you will level off, right? And that's why I'm only saying that to you, because I feel like it would really greatly benefit you to see a psychotherapist that can allow you to impart knowledge on what kind of tools you can have so that when you do have these episodes, it doesn't eat up 2, 3, or 4 days of your week.
Yeah.
You know?
Actually, no, I think you're right, because like I said before, even though I'm very aware of how I'm feeling, when I'm feeling it, how long it lasts, the things that they could be symptoms. It could have been something might have triggered me, but then made me listen to Linkin Park. But obviously I don't know Chester Bennington personally,
right?
But for some reason, the loss of him was just so devastating, because Linkin Park was a big part of my life in terms of like growing up.
Right. And that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, no, like for me, I think it's just figuring out what those triggers are. So similar to your journey where you're like, okay, this will start this and this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
If I'm able to do that 100%, that would change the game for me. Because right now I'm kind of like at the stage where I'm aware I have depression. I'm aware of when I'm having episodes. I'm aware of, oh, this might be one of those days. But if I can figure out what if I made it not one of those days.
Right. Right.
Yeah. What can I do to not succumb to that kind of behavior or those thought processes and things like that? If I can figure out the triggers, obviously this is the whole purpose of this podcast. We express it so openly and everything, but we don't have the solution either. No. We're just trying to figure out different things that could help. Right.
Yeah.
But this is why we're talking here, because we're just kind of sharing ideas, like what do you do versus what does this person do, and then maybe I'll try some of what you do. Try some of this person.
There you go. It's about imparting knowledge to each other, to because at the end of the day, right? It's we are a network, right? It's important for us to connect the dots together, because only then can we really solve that fucking connected dot puzzle that I fucking hate. But we are unfortunately out of time. I do have to say, holy shit, thank you so much for being on the show. Like, this has been super enlightening. I mean it. Honestly, all of my guests are amazing. I guess maybe it's a little different because you and I have known each other for so motherfucking long that it's finally nice to actually get to know you past the kind of person that I knew you as in the past.
The mask on the other side.
Pretty much. Okay. Like
a social mask.
Yeah. Like, it's so funny because the parallels of you talking about, with your ex and how you dealt with it. And I actually saw firsthand how you dealt with it. And it looked nothing like how you described it just now. And that, it makes a lot of sense because of the way that you describe your traumas growing up and the way you had to mask it because you grew up in, such a like toxic masculinity kind of like vibe, right? Where you had to be like, no, I can't be like this because people will think this way.
Yeah.
It made so much sense. And honestly, I am so glad that you're able to finally come into your own with this whole thing. And you are just amazing. You're just going to keep on going and going. And if you ever need anything, you can always come to me because at least, I'll understand it. Right. And it's not a knock on any of your other friends. It's just, it is true. It's harder for people who have not gone through a mental health issue to understand what we're going through.
Yeah.
But I do want to say before we go, guys, Matt, go plug yourself for a minute. Go. And I'm going to have to put it in here as well, but go talk about who you are again.
Remind everybody. If you want to follow my journey, like I'm going to be posting a bunch of these videos as well. And a lot of it is going to be on about real estate, obviously. But you can check out my Instagram at realtormattleung. You can also find me on Facebook, but no one really uses Facebook that much anymore. But so it's mostly going to be on Instagram anyways, but I am kind of building up my YouTube channel. I have some talks going in to be a part of a bigger team that's doing a lot more. So hopefully we'll be able to create a lot more content, a lot more quality, things like that. But mostly everything's going to be on Instagram regardless. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Don't worry, guys. He will be back. I need him back here. There are other things we both need to talk about. Again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah,
Before you
thanks for
go,
having me.
of course, I want to tell you right now, it's not about having a bad day. It's about having a bad moment, because a moment can take 3 to 5 seconds. And once you realize that it's just that moment, you're good for the rest of the day. So don't even worry about things, Matt. Again, guys, this has been Breaking Down Breakdown. This is Steven. That's Matt. I really hope you guys learned something for today. I can't wait to talk to you guys again. Until next time, remember, do not forget to be compassionate and to be that voice of reason when nobody else seems to be acting like one, because people are idiots nowadays. But it's okay. You're allowed to be an idiot for 3 to 5 minutes, but that's about it. I love you guys. Thank you so much. I will see y'all soon.